Hi, everyone, and welcome. Give everybody a moment here to join. Excited to have you. Okay, well, thank you. Really excited to be working through this session today from RISMedia's broker webinar series on how AI can boost agent productivity, sponsored by Reliance Network. My name is Dan Weissman, and I am the Director of Innovation Strategy with the National Association of Realtors, and I will be moderating this panel. Before we get started, I want to give Sean an opportunity to introduce himself as our sponsor and talk a little bit about Reliance Network. So I'm going to hand things over to Sean, and then we'll have our other two panelists join us, and we'll dive in to the hot topic of AI. So Sean, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I think we're going to have some fun with this topic today. And also a big thank you, Michelle and Shelly, to both of you. Getting a chance to meet with you prior to this. Not only is it an honor to join all of you on the panel, and so thank you for letting me be a part of this, but just hearing how you're approaching AI within your companies and certainly the work that you're doing with agents in the field and obviously with buyers and sellers, I think it's a very exciting topic, very timely topic. So as the sponsor, just a couple quick words about my company, Reliance, or Reliance Network for many. First, if you don't know about us or you haven't looked at us in a while, I would recommend that you take a look at our website. Go to relianceai.com, and it's relianceai.com, very, very simple. And you'll learn a lot more about the products and the services, a little bit about our history, and certainly the vision that we have for the future of our work in this industry. And very proud of the work that we do with over 150 companies. I'm very proud of our beautiful websites, what we're doing in the SEO space, the ease of use of our CRM, and now more than ever, all of the AI-powered tools that we're bringing to the market. So, Dan, I think one of the questions we talked about early on and that you've asked is our feelings about is AI changing the industry? How will it change the industry? And I know we're going to really delve into that here, but I'm just going to say just up front that from my perspective, unequivocally, yes, it is absolutely changing the game, and it's doing it at light speed in so many different ways. Just the handful of quotes that you see up here on the screen, to me, that's one of the most exciting parts about my job and what we do as a company. We have many, I mean, so many now quotes and video testimonials and thank yous from agents, from teams, from industry executives, marketing executives. Just this year alone, statements just like what you're seeing there on the screen, all of it due exclusively to AI. So it is absolutely having an impact. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to spending a little more time on as we get into this session, and exactly what does that mean? How are agents winning the listing appointments if they are? How are we closing homes faster? What it's like to truly have a virtual marketing assistant. These are all great topics. I will say this very briefly, having spent my entire professional career in real estate, most of it, or a good huge sum of it, developing technology to make the lives of agents a little bit easier, sometimes a lot easier. I have never been more excited about this aspect of the industry than I am today. I think AI is game changing for a lot of different reasons. Yes, I think it can be, it's an overused term in some respects, and I know we'll get into the history of it a little bit, but the real world advantages that we're seeing and how it is helping agents win listings, how it is helping us to place buyers in front of listings in a more timely way, closing deals faster, and even the impact that it's having on SEO with your websites. It's a very exciting topic. So I'm looking forward to delving into that more. And at the very end, we'll take just a moment to I want to thank an amazing group of people around me that are making all this possible. Also something that we're going to provide to everybody at the end of the session today to give you a little bit more insight into what we're doing with AI in real estate right now.
Awesome.
Dan, back to you.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. And we'll welcome the other two panelists. We'll start with Shelly. If Shelly, you could just do a quick intro, and then just like Sean did, let us know briefly, because we'll dive into the details, kind of your thoughts on if you think AI will change the real estate industry positively or negatively.
Hey, I'm Shelly Vincent. I am the Vice President of Operations Employing Broker for the state of Colorado for HomeSmart. I'm also a crypto and AI educator and fully embrace it, and can't wait to talk about how AI is going to change our industry in a very positive way today.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelly. And Michelle, we'd like to welcome you as well, and would love a quick intro and your thoughts briefly on if you think AI is going to have a positive or negative impact on the industry.
Hi everyone, Michelle Belisari in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. I'm a real estate agent with over 20 years experience. I used to say I'm an OG. I specialize in listing niches, probate and seniors downsizing and empty nesters in particular. I've jumped on the AI ChatGPT wagon when it first came out, and it's already changing for the better. My productivity, my creativity, and being able to leverage myself. It's like having my own virtual assistant at my fingertips.
So it's positive. You love it.
I'm also with Real Broker, so.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll ask some questions about that because I know they're very tech forward. One other quick question, Michelle. I can't remember who won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, gee, I don't know. Well, that would be the Florida Panthers.
All right. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have too many Canadians on here who are upset about Edmonton, but it was a great series. So I wonder, did AI predict who was going to win this year? I didn't look at those numbers,
I don't know. That's a good question, but maybe they can predict what Miami Dolphins might do now.
So awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, really excited to be moderating this panel. And I wanted to kind of just level set things. As we all know, this concept of AI has been around for 70 plus years. We finally are at a point where we have both the data and the compute power. You've probably seen a lot of articles around the chip competition between NVIDIA and AMD and Intel. We now have the data, the compute power to actually figure out what this data means to us. And there are some interesting stats that I like to share around the amount of data that we have. So in the past 2 years, we have created about 90% of the data that we have today. And I was just reading an article report from Deloitte, and they said that by next year, we will have 175 zettabytes worth of data. For most of us, that means absolutely nothing, but I love the example they gave. I know we're all familiar with Bluray discs because we all used to use those. So they said that the amount of Blu-ray discs we would need in 2025 to have all the data that we're going to have on those actual Blu-ray discs would reach from Earth to the moon 23 times. So think about just how much data that is if you're from the days of CD-ROMs and Blu-rays. There's a lot of data out there. And it's only going to grow exponentially when you think about the data, the compute power, and now we're throwing in AI to actually do something with this data and also create synthetic data that maybe we'll talk a bit about. We're going to have so much information that it feels a bit overwhelming of where to start, where to begin, what it means, and how to best utilize it as an agent or broker in the real estate space. We've all been seeing the outcomes of AI, whether it be Facebook ads, if you're using TikTok or Instagram, all of these products that we use on a daily basis have an AI feature. What I find interesting is that today we seem to be very obsessed with trying to use technology and understand it in this deeper level than we ever had in the past. And so one of the things I really want to try to accomplish today through this conversation is to not forget about two other components to everything we do, is people and process. And so I really want to, as we get through this conversation, obviously AI and tech and Gen AI is a huge component and obviously the topic of this webinar, but I want to make sure that we talk about, like, Michelle, you're a broker, I want to make sure we dive into, like, what are you actually seeing from a people and process perspective where AI can help you? You already started hitting on some of those. So I really think the human connection, especially in the real estate space, is critical. And so I want to make sure we focus on, again, the people, process, and technology. So with that said, I want to dive right in. I really want to talk about how the industry operates the people side of things. Some of the biggest challenges we're seeing, it doesn't have to be related to tech, but some of the biggest challenges we're seeing when it comes to just everyday, how the industry is operating, and where you think there's room for improvement and opportunities to be better at what you all do. So I'd love to start with you, Michelle, if you have some ideas on just things that you're seeing day to day that you think we could change process, and maybe tech ties into it, that could help you be better and the industry be better.
So, as an agent, boots on the ground, I'm still in production. One of the challenges is low inventory, and it's still low. Rising prices, at least in my area, we have rising prices and low inventory. The lending situation, which kind of threw everybody for a loop, but I think that's kind of, people have kind of gotten used to that at this point. And I think, adding technology into what we do as agents can be challenging if you're not open to it. If you're of a certain age, and I'm of that kind of demo where it can be intimidating and scary, I'm here to tell you it's really not as intimidating as one might think, and there's a lot of resources for that. And obviously a lot of regulatory changes with what's going on with the NAR lawsuit and whatnot, which is making agents very nervous right now. And uncomfortable because change is scary and not knowing what the outcome is. But I think there's a lot of opportunities too, and leveraging, just like ChatGPT, for example, agents that can embrace that and use it for the most basic of things, writing a smoother email, having a great text response or opening of a text response, or if you're networking, what do you say to somebody if you're networking? So I think there's opportunities to improve some of our human to human style that still has our voice, and Chat GPT and AI, that's not going to take away our voice. It's just a matter of how we tweak it. So those are just a couple of my thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I've talked to other agents and brokers, and ChatGPT is getting to a point where it's starting to actually understand your tone and who you are and how you communicate. And so you start to almost train your own kind of assistant that acts like you, behaves like you, which can be a little bit scary. But I think, again, to your point, there's lots of opportunities to help support you on things that maybe you don't like doing, or maybe you'd rather spend your time doing something else. So those are great examples. Shelly, I'd love to hear from you. I know you manage 2,500 agents or so. That's a large amount of people that you're responsible for and help support. And so I'm really curious what you're seeing from a process perspective, and where you think there are opportunities for improvement, and maybe a little bit about how either AI or maybe even another technology, you mentioned crypto blockchain, but maybe we won't go down that path, how that ties into your thought process when it comes to kind of the future.
Well, I see things a lot as AI being a very beneficial productivity tool for agents in saving time and helping to connect faster and better with potential leads by using messaging programs and having that human-like interaction when you might be showing homes, and you're able to have better connections with possible leads. Saving time as in more intuitive filling out of contracts with your integrations between maybe MLSs and your contract software, and we're seeing so much better information there. Also with farming and looking for possible listings, being able to so much more narrow down the field and being able to put your money in the best place possible when you're marketing for yourself. So there's some really great tools out there besides just ChatGPT. We always want to get used to AI through something like ChatGPT and testing the marketing materials, the writing of listings, things like that. But we have so many more tools than that are emerging in our industry right now that really is going to improve the productivity and your return on investment for your marketing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's kind of two ways that I kind of look at things. There's the client-facing some of the items you talked about, Shelly, and then there's some internal tools which we can get into. Michelle, you mentioned you work with Real Brokerage, and I know they have some really neat internal tools to help support you. But I'd like to turn to Sean, and as we talk about maybe some of the work that you're doing with Reliance, where do you see support, improvement, productivity, and tying into AI when it comes to what you're seeing from a technologist perspective?
Well, it's, I think it was summed up really well in terms of looking at productivity tools are such a key area. And for us, one of the things we work very hard at is making sure that we make the technology very accessible, easy, practical. So when we're looking at AI, it is from a very practical sense. We're not trying to overcomplicate things. We're not trying to put agents in a space where they're actually having to log into anything in order to really take advantage of some of the AI solutions that are available right now. So for me, a lot of it is creating AI-based products that are very automated, very transparent. They're just working behind the scenes. Some of the quotes that you saw earlier are based on products, particularly on our ad engine, that are focused almost exclusively on letting the AI do the heavy lifting, let it do the complex work, let it actually not only, and well, I'll just speak about one area of productivity, so advertising. I think advertising is in a really exciting, evolving space. And that is being able to analyze every listing that we have in our system. We have a lot of listings, but analyze every single listing, find the unique attributes of those listings, let the AI then actually craft a very highly targeted message and advertisement surrounding that listing, and then place it targeted in a very targeted manner with the right buyer audience. And as a result, we are seeing click-through rates and percentages that were unheard of even a year ago in terms of what's possible, going from industry norms of a 1% click-through rate on Facebook and Instagram ads to we're 13 times that today, hitting 13% for certain resort and luxury properties. We're seeing click-through rates as high now as 30 to 40%. That would have been incredibly time-consuming and difficult either for marketing professionals or for agents to try to craft those messages and try to hit those numbers. That's where I think the magic of AI behind the scenes is coming into play. Now, there are a lot of other things that we're doing with AI that are more agent engaged and certainly get into copywriting and your virtual marketing assistant and other elements. But I'm very, very bullish on the fact that we can actually let the AI do more of the heavy lifting for agents and make their lives a little bit easier.
It's really interesting. I'm curious, I want to talk about kind of the home search and what you all are seeing when it comes to consumers looking for properties they may be interested in, and kind of what you think and how kind of generative AI and ChatGPT maybe not just changes what agents and brokers do, but also changes the way consumers search for homes. So I'd love to hear a little bit from Michelle maybe around what your thoughts are when it comes to the consumer perspective. Like, what is the expectation going forward now that generative AI is out in our world when it comes to what consumers want?
So interesting. My daughter got married last Labor Day weekend, and one of the things people complain about is ads on Facebook, right? But I was looking for a mother of the bride gown, which was a nightmare in itself. However, once I did a couple searches and clicked on Facebook, right, it started feeding me terrible mother of the bride gowns, by the way, like horrible. However, and I have a whole thing I did on TikTok on it. However, it started feeding me versus me having to constantly search. So at least, like as an example for that, it started sending me the companies that specialized, the companies, and then they started picking up on what I liked, what colors I like, what styles I like. So I think the same thing for the consumer. They start their search wherever they start their search, whether it's with an agent portal, whether it's with one of the bigger portals. And the next thing you know, they start being basically spoon-fed. One, I think it saves you a lot of time. And so it doesn't tick me off. Like, I know people get frustrated with that, but I will tell you, it saved me hours of time when I was searching for that dress. But I think the personal recommendations that you start getting as it gets to know your search is part of like what I think is pretty cool. I think the other thing is that we're going to see more and more of this. It's not going away. And so we've got to either embrace it or not. And I say embrace it as much as you can. There's always a downside to it. But I personally felt that from a time perspective, it saved me, I don't know how many hours of having to search for something. So the same thing goes for the real estate market because buyers are very specific. They're very specific about what they like, what they don't like, where they want to go, where they want to be, design, style, location. So that's kind of my thought on it.
So do you think that because of generative AI that consumers will be put in a better position to be able to look for specific things related to the type of home they want?
I think so. I do, because it does get to know you. To your point, Dan, you know, it gets to know your tone, your voice. It's picking up on that. It's basically like at Real Brokerage, you know, we have Leo, and that's part of it. It's getting to know who I am as that agent and what I'm looking for and what I need. So yeah, I think so.
And Shelly, so what are you talking to your agents about when it comes to what Michelle was just discussing and putting, again, technology can always be scary, especially when it moves as fast as generative AI has in particular. How are you explaining this to your agents in terms of like the client expectations and if they should be doing things differently or kind of what they should do to help ensure that they continue to gain market share?
Yeah. Well, first off, to reply to Michelle, I am a frequent victim of that AI technology on social media. It costs me a lot of money because the AI is so good in pinpointing exactly what I like. so great use of it. And just like we said, you know, AI is never going to replace real estate agents because this is a relationship business. And, you know, this is all about productivity. I do see a lot of fear of AI, but it's mostly because of lack of knowledge of it and how it actually helps us in our business. So when I'm working with agents and they are very new to it, I always encourage them, get a free ChatGPT account, start putting different, you know, questions, commands into it and play around with it and see what it can do for you. And the agents very quickly become very excited about it. And like I said, you know, it grows so much so fast. And now we have programs with real estate, you know, written into it for like RISMedia for helping to write listing, descriptions, writing blog posts, articles. There's so many things that are custom tailored to our real estate market. That's fantastic. With RE Colorado, one of the large MLSs here, we just started using Lundy, which helps those that are sight impaired to be able to verbally search for homes. And that is AI based. And so we're seeing so many things. And, you know, from a brokerage level, you know, for HomeSmart, we're working on an AI program for ourselves. And when you have large volume brokerages like I am a part of, being able to have agents that can come through that entrance to type in their question to be able to be directed appropriately very quickly to the right place. And anything that helps the productivity of the agent is going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle had mentioned real brokerage product Leo, and I know there's other ones out there called Sidekick by Avenue 8 and others. But I found it interesting as you know, doing research on behalf of NAR and the strategy and innovation team, where, you know, I was always thinking around the consumer and the agents and the brokers and how the communication happens between those two groups. But then there's also the internal component of like, how do you get information out of your company, out of your business to understand kind of where you are, what's going on? So I'd love to hear more about, Michelle, could you talk a little bit about your friend Leo and tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, it's very exciting. You know, I've always loved embracing this anything new technology, which I think is great. So, Real Broker, which I've been with Real since 2021, introduced Leo, which is an AI assistant. We also have our own proprietary um, transaction management system called Reason. So it's integrated together. So basically, it's Leo's customized for each agent. So depending on what your needs are, your working styles, it's part of the goal is to reduce the amount of questions that are coming directly to, say, support. And we have an amazing support team, by the way, at Real, and that way, certain questions, things to make you more efficient. Sometimes you want to know, like, where am I at with my capping? How many people are in my community? For me, a lot of times I'm like, I need to know who a broker is for one of the states. Like, I know my brokers, but I don't know who the broker is in, say, Missouri. And just to be able to go to, Leo and say, who's the broker in Missouri? I've got an agent that's, considering coming to Real, and they would like to have a conversation with the state broker. It's learning us all the time. It can talk to us about current transactions, past transactions, events, etc. So it's growing and learning from each of us that uses it. And basically, our chief technology officer, Pritesh, is like, the more you use it, the more it learns, and that helps all of us. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I met Pritesh a few years ago, and he actually spoke at our Innovation Opportunity and Investment Summit that we put on. I think that was last year, if I remember correctly. And it's pretty amazing what he's done as the CTO to come in and really transform the access that you now have to information. It's at your fingertips, which kind of goes back to where we started around the data and the compute power, and giving people the ability to not have to make 10 phone calls to get a simple answer. You can ask Leo, right? And it saves you an hour's worth of time. It saves somebody else an hour's worth of time. And before you know it, you create significant efficiencies, which I think is just awesome. I want to shift a little bit. I want to talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, this idea of virtual staging, because this is all powered by AI. And for those who have known me for the past 5+ years that I've been on the strategy and the innovation team at NAR, I've really been, for lack of a better term, obsessed with augmented reality, virtual reality. I just think there's something there, and maybe I'm doing what I tell people not to do, which is push a technology into a problem that doesn't exist. But I do think that with AI, I've started to see some really neat tools like virtual staging AI or reimagine homes, where you can, through the use of generative AI and asking questions and describing what you want in a home, you could take actual pictures or images of a room, for example, and create what could be yours in the future. So I'd be curious if any of you have thoughts or have seen or experienced this virtual staging AI type product, and if you think it's me just pushing to solve a problem that doesn't exist, or if there's actually something out there where you think this could be of value in the future.
Well, virtual staging AI is actually one of the AI softwares that I talk about when I do have my education classes. The old school dragging and dropping virtual pieces of furniture and manually typing in commands to change it. It's a timely process, and virtual staging absolutely speeds up the process, makes things so much quicker for the agents, and the product they have and the results are fantastic. So I think that's a great one. And as you said, the more it's used, the more it learns. And so that's definitely one of the tools that I do like. As far as augmented reality, I think that, COVID really helped push that forward. We saw a huge surge of virtual tours, of floor plans, things like with Cubicasa, things like that, that are greatly enhancing the information in our listings. And then now you've got, some of your large Zillow products and such offering much more intricate 3D tours, things like that, that are definitely changing our market, and it's a better product for the listing agent to be able to offer it, and it's better for the buyer to be able to see it.
Do you think that because of this technology and how quickly it's evolving, that it really is changing the expectations of the consumer?
I think it will. I think we're in the process of having higher expectations, and it's a very competitive market, and agents that can offer it are definitely going to have an edge on those that don't.
Absolutely. Sean, do you have any thoughts on this particular topic and kind of how maybe it ties into what you're doing, or just obviously being in the tech space? I'm sure you have lots of different connections and kind of seeing the future to some degree. Any thoughts on kind of home visualization in general?
Yeah, and actually, I'll probably tie this back a little bit to AI-based search too, because I think that's such an important part of aspect of this. My wife and I, by the way, I'm part of a husband-wife team. So my wife is the president of our company, and we're very both engaged in all things real estate technology. We made a pretty big life change this last year and decided for the first time, let's move. And we decided to choose a new city that we didn't know, we knew very little about. And so we went through that entire process, in fact, looking at these very types of products. And a year ago is even very different than what we have available to us today. But we learned a great deal during that experience. It was, one, and the amount of time of scouring through what probably were ultimately hundreds of homes, trying to find very specific things, such I'll give you an example. We needed a larger specific office space to work out of. Trying to find the way that the home was positioned on a potential lot, what type of view it may have. These are the types of things where I see AI playing such a critical role in the future. In fact, I think it's going to completely change how we search for real estate within the next year. That's where we're investing heavily as a business, and I think most others are looking at that as well, because the opportunity now not only to help you rapidly find the perfect match and save both you and your agent a lot of time of touring the wrong properties is a big deal for starters. But also then when you get into things such as staging the property, is it really a good fit for everything? By the way, I learned the hard way that furniture from an old home never works in a new home. So I mean, I'm not sure how much it would have really helped me with that, by the way. But that said, it does give you it will give us a much better perspective as buyers, also as agents, and helping to place buyers with the right homes more quickly, to really find what exactly they want and to learn more about the markets. One thing I will mention too that I'm very, very excited about from what we're looking at is that ability to leverage AI to learn a lot more about a given marketplace. So when you're moving into a new area, so if I was moving to Boca as an example, been there, beautiful area. My business partner, chairman of our company, and his wife live there. I don't know Boca very well, but if we were moving there, it would be amazing, Michelle, to be able to have better systems for expressing what is it really like to live there? What are the restaurants like? What are the top events? How close are you really to the ocean? There's so many different things that would be beneficial, and then helping you find the perfect location for those properties. There's so many communities there, the right communities for our lifestyle. AI can not only do that for the future, but I think it's going to help us in other important areas. Real estate is our single biggest investment for most Americans and just purchasers in general. And when you think in terms of looking at the future, wouldn't it be wonderful to just be able to actually not only understand what it's going to cost to purchase the home, but to look at what your total cost of ownership is likely to be over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, to look at likely appreciation trends and based on historical details. We can do that ourselves today, but it's a time-consuming process. So this future is going to be so different, where now you're not only looking at the home as this is our new home, this is where we're going to live, but we can actually look at the likely value of that investment and what we can expect or should expect to a certain degree over the coming years. I love that. And from just a pure business sense, real estate is such a great investment, and especially over the mid and long term. So to be able to have that right at your fingertips is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to think about kind of the accessibility of this technology. Before, I mean, it still is somewhat in the hands of the big tech companies, but it has become way easier for any of us to get our hands on, whereas 5-10 years ago it was impossible, right? You needed to be a coder, a programmer, and untangle kind of the world behind the scenes of AI, and now we don't need that anymore. I want to pivot a bit and talk. We talked about a lot of positive things, and I love the positive energy, but I've got to adjust a bit to balance this out, and I want to talk about the cautions and risks associated with generative AI. I know I've used it myself, and sometimes it doesn't give you the best information. And it's sometimes the simple stuff. I asked it to write a listing just for fun to see how it came out, to give an example in a presentation I gave about a month ago. And I literally gave it all the information, the link to the home, asked exactly what I needed, and it came back and somehow messed up that it was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and it said it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So really simple stuff. And so that's like an easy fix, right? You just read the description and you know it made a mistake. But there are some risks associated that are even way worse than that when it comes to biases, fair housing rules. So I'd love to hear a little bit from Shelly and Michelle around as you're either using or talking to your agents about ChatGPT or other generative AI products. How are you warning them that this is still a learning machine and it's not always right? And what, if any, guardrails are you trying to put in place to protect your organization, your businesses, and the people that you're supporting?
Well, when I teach my class, I type in an address of a former home I lived in and knew well, and I ask it to write a listing description for the home. And then it gives me a beautiful listing description that is a wonderful piece of marketing material. And then I underline in one color every piece that is inaccurate about the home. And then I underline in red what could be a possible fair housing violation of terminology. And I use that to teach the agents that, the generative AI still makes up a lot. It's not necessarily factual in many cases. And so it should be used for drafting purposes only. And they still must rely on editing to ensure full compliance and accuracy.
Yeah, it's really scary that it gets some of these simple things wrong. And it makes me wonder like how these programs are being built and trained and how these corrections happen. And so, yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. I mean, there would be times where, you're trying to write a blog or a social post and you just need a little bit of a push to get the wheels turning. And it's a great starting point, like you said, Shelly, but it's a draft and you need to make sure that it's your own and ultimately you're responsible for whatever you provide. Michelle, do you have any examples that you've seen, or how do you kind of go about on your day-to-day usage of generative AI when it comes to making sure that whatever comes out of that doesn't get you into trouble?
Yeah, well, that's a big deal too, because you really have to check your work, check yourself, run it through plagiarism, software, etc. I think when it comes to doing descriptions in particular, fair housing, fair housing, fair housing, you have to be very, very diligent with that and even put that in when you're doing your prompt. The other thing is AI does get it wrong when it comes to Sean's point. Let's just say Boca Raton. Tell me about 5 things about Boca Raton for someone who's moving here. And it may not be correct. So the value of having a real estate agent who's hyper local, who knows the area, is going to say, whoa, that's not right. I did a blog post as an example for Hillsborough Mile. It's one of the wealthiest areas in South Florida. And it started knocking out things that they said was there. And I'm like, that's not there. That's in Pompano, or that's in Lauderdale, or that's in, Boca. there's no restaurants in Hillsborough Mile. There's nothing. It's just high-end residential. So you have to know those areas. So if you're writing blog posts and you're writing social media, I did something, for example, on surfing, and I'm like, here are like, 5 of the best surf shops in our area. And I'm like, that's not, no, So I think that's where the value of really knowing your area and being the mayor of your town, which, I've done with Soboka. I've been here 45 years. I know it really well, but I know a lot about South Florida. So that's where you have to be very careful when you're plugging this stuff in and making sure that you're not just garbage in, garbage out, and it's incorrect, big time. And have some disclaimers too, that it may not be correct information.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think the moral of the story is when it comes to any sort of technology, just like we do with any other platform that we use, is to be a bit of a skeptic and make sure that it actually is what you want it to say and fact check it. Because we're not at a point where if we ever will be, it's 100% right. So use it as maybe a foundation to get started on something, and then ensure that you use your own words to craft and tweak it in a way that is in your own voice and tone, and also doesn't break any laws. I want to talk a bit about what's next. ChatGPT came out in November of 22. That's when all of a sudden everybody wanted to talk about generative AI in particular. Obviously, AI is a larger bucket of technology, but it seems to be moving faster than most of us could have imagined. And you see companies popping up everywhere that are now generative AI products and software that are typically just sitting on some sort of ChatGPT type product. And I think there's a lot of value there because you can start to customize it to specific industries. But I want to talk a bit about where is this going? What's next? And when do you think kind of the next big evolution of AI is going to happen? So I'd love to start with you, Sean, and just get kind of your future looking thoughts on like what you expect 5, 10 years from now that people should think about and have on the horizon to help drive their use of generative AI and technology in general.
Well, first 5 to 10 years from now, it might as well be a century in this space at the moment. It's moving at light speed. And as you shared at the beginning, while machine learning is nothing new, it has been around for a long time. It's the difference today in terms of access to information and being so widely available to just the general public. It's a game-changing event. A lot is going to happen, I believe, over the next 1 to 2 years, really frankly, even over the next several months. It's just continuing to evolve so quickly. I think, when I'm listening to Michelle, you're just talking about Leo as an example. To me, that's a wonderful aspect of this technology because and we're building our own built-in, we'll say, virtual assistant that's all AI powered. And to be able to take, and we call it Ray, and when I look at how she's learning at the rate that type of a product is learning, it's just really fascinating to see what will that assistant be able to do for agents and teams in the future. And my perspective, it's going to take very good agents, new agents that are getting into the industry, and it's going to make them better and great agents. It's going to take great agents, and it's just going to make them absolute superstars when they employ it the right way in their businesses, because we're seeing it now. We're seeing the effects of having better marketing tools, sales and marketing messages, having a resource that they can go to that can provide near instant answers to just about any question that they may have. And I think the guardrails are very important. So obviously we're talking about that. That will be a continued evolution because AI, it's a learning tool. So for all of us, that's one of the most important things we can be doing is training it and training ourselves so that we're asking better questions as we go forward. But just in terms of innovation and that direction, I believe, and we already talked about it a little bit, I believe AI-powered search is going to be a game-changing technology in this industry. I believe the way that we search for homes and real estate today will feel arcane in comparison to where we will be even a year from today. The idea of pulling levers and switches and choosing radio buttons and drop downs That will eventually become a thing that will actually be unnecessary. You just simply answer simple questions of what is it that you're really looking for, and you're going to receive results so quickly. You'll receive just the most perfect property tour because you're not wasting time driving from one end of town to the other end of town and then back and forth to see the homes that you're looking at before you have a realtor engaged, as an example. There's so many different aspects of search itself, I believe, is going to evolve. Advertising, the same thing. I think the advertising algorithms are just going to continue to get better and better and better. And it's going to do a more effective job of placing buyers with listings even faster than it already is today. And this is just within the next 6 to 12 months. Looking out past that, it gets much more gray area.
Yeah, it's tough.
Where are these technologies truly going to be taking us? But I do believe it's going to be that ultimate assistant. That is really the key for where these technologies are going to be driving in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it is interesting. I was on a panel actually yesterday with Google, and we were talking a bit about ads and revenue generation for them, because that whole search world is now changing in front of them. Michelle, I'd love to hear a bit on kind of the future looking. What are you thinking when it comes to generative AI?
I think it's just going to be part of our lifestyle, like right across the board, from streamlining projects, workflows, work-life balance. It's going to be integrated, I think, more and more into our daily life. And as realtors, one of the biggest issues with realtors, two things, is anxiety and the highs and lows of the market. And maybe being able to take AI and say, how can I create some work-life balance and boundaries for myself based on the following things, so that I'm a highly productive agent, and I want to focus on listings. 80% of my business is going to be listings, and I need to have some boundaries and downtime. It's a big conversation behind the scenes that people don't always hear about. The consumer certainly doesn't, because we hide that really well. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to all be integrated together to be highly productive and also have your mental health. And I think that's the organic piece, although it doesn't sound organic, that can maybe just flip that switch to help somebody realize you can't work 24/7, but you can do this, this, and this, and help it come up with that game plan for you. Like, I look at like AI and ChatGPT, which is what I use the most, as a coach. Basically, I plug in things, I do coaching, I've created courses with it, I've created so many things with it. It is every part of my day, every day. And I just think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but not everybody does. That's just me.
I just recently, ChatGPT came out with an app if you're a Mac user, and I can simply hit Option spacebar, and up pops a ChatGPT search bar, essentially, that I can type in whatever I want and ask it anything. So it's a totally different perspective on how I am searching for things going forward. So, Shelly, I'd love to hear a bit from you around future and your 2,500 agents.
Well, I'm going to once again revisit the whole social media and finding that perfect dress that just follows you across all platforms. And let's put that to home searches. When people click on certain photographs and they spend X amount of time on it and they like this type of kitchen, there's going to be much more automation as to showing other properties to them that fit certain criteria that's much closer as to, I like this type of yard. It's not going to be just the parameters of which we currently search homes in. It's going to be much more intuitive to a potential buyer as to what it suggests, and then following you across the platforms, things like that. So I think that we're going to see, I think pretty quickly, much more intuitive home search results. And you're going to see much more in terms of the style of the interior of the home, the style of the outside of the home, the type of yard, which are very difficult criteria to search by now. It's going to be AI behind it, and I think you're going to have much more specific results that come from it for the potential buyers.
Yeah, I love this because I mean, what I'm getting out of all this is all about productivity, efficiency, work-life balance, trying to figure out how to use these tools to be better and faster at what you do. And I think that's so important. And AI, generative AI, is giving us this opportunity with some of the cautions, of course, that we mentioned. So this topic can be very overwhelming. I do research on AI every day. I talk about it all the time. Our team, the strategy and innovation team, is always looking at it and giving presentations. But even in this, we've been on for about 50-ish minutes. Even this feels overwhelming. We talked about a lot of good stuff, a lot of scary stuff, but it's what's my takeaway? What do I do with this information? And if I'm someone who maybe is just starting to get into generative AI or somebody who's been using it, I'd love to kind of close out by hearing kind of the one takeaway. What can somebody do today? What should they remember about this conversation? I'd like to start with you, Michelle, if that's okay.
Sure. Just do it. Just like Nike, just do it. You've got to, no matter where you are in your chapter of life, staying in the game has everything to do with trying new things. You don't have to like it or use it, but don't not try it. If I hadn't jumped on Clubhouse in 2020, I wouldn't have 30 freaking friends that I adore, that I network with, mastermind with, refer to, because I tried it. My kids made me try Snapchat and then hated me for it because I outsnapped them, and met 25 agents from that. So what I'm saying is that try these new things. We all had to try a laptop at one point, right? We all had to try these phones at one time, right? Instead of a flip phone, right? So if you try something new, don't be afraid. Reach out to a buddy, reach out to me, and try it, and just put in one prompt. That's what it's called, right? A prompt. Put in some prompt. Tell me about, insert the city I live in, places to go, things to do, restaurants to go to, and let it spit it out, and start with something a little more fun, and then ease into the actual real estate side of it and see how you like it. And you can even do a poem in the voice of Willie Nelson. We won't even say what kind of poem that might be, but it'd be fun. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have fun with it at the beginning if you're nervous, but you can take it to the very serious, very productive, very, oh my God, this is a game changer for my business scenario.
Yeah, that's great. Shelly, what do you think? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I echo Michelle's sentiments perfectly, and I love that saying, AI will not replace you, but an agent using AI will. Those that embrace the technology and take that moment to start on ChatGPT, start learning and educate yourself on it, you'd be amazed at how much more productive you can be and the many more opportunities available to you if you will just take that first step.
Sounds great. Sean.
Oh, well, Shelly and Michelle have really summed it up so well. But from our perspective, we're in the business of building destination websites, whether it's for companies or agents, teams. And Michelle, you even mentioned this a little while ago, that hyper-local component, which we're huge believers of, is so important. So I just kind of going to break this down to a very practical exercise. Take a little bit of time every day, 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't take much. We create a better SEO community page for the communities, the subdivisions, the niche, the area of specialty that you focus on as a sales professional. You would be shocked at how quickly you can develop effective content today that drives real SEO. And I will say there's that warning out there of, well, you need to be careful with AI generated content from an SEO perspective, but that's all changing. Certainly the technologies we're using, the descriptions and the context that are coming back are so, as we call it, humanistic. It can pass virtually any test, but then you take a moment to just edit it, personalize it, make it your own. This is all done in 5 to 10 minutes for any given page, top to bottom. Add that to your website. And these are pages that are driving upwards of 80% of all website traffic across these sites. So become that destination leader. That would be just a simple recommendation. Now you can use it for so many other things, but anybody that just takes 5 to 10 minutes a day, you start to get into a cadence. It's like anything else in life, working out, education. Put a little bit of time and effort into it each day, you get better and better and better at it. You'll ask better questions, you'll get better results, and before you know it, you're generating another level of income and you're hitting your sales goals like you wouldn't believe. And that's where I think the power of AI is coming into play today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what I heard from all of you is just try it. This isn't going anywhere. It's going to be part of our lives, and get on board now so that you're ahead of the other folks. So before we wrap up, I do want to thank RISMedia again, and thank Shelly, Michelle, and Sean, and of course, Reliance. And so to wrap us up, I want to hand things back over to Sean for a brief moment. He has apparently an amazing giveaway for us. So Sean, do you want to give us a bit of insight on what this is? And again, thank you everybody for joining us. And feel free to reach out with thoughts and questions for me if you'd like on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. So Sean, it's all yours.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for moderating this. You did an amazing job. And Michelle and Shelly, it's really been wonderful working with you guys. And obviously, Kristen and the whole team at RISMedia. I will share, so first off, we will make sure that everybody that's interested, we will get this link to you. So it's a little bit easier than having to write that code down. So we'll email that off to everyone. I will share just really quick closing. Investment in AI is no small thing. And I, for one, feel very fortunate that we made, as a company, some strategic decisions actually 3, 4, 5 years ago even, to be in a position where we could really leverage AI. Now we are, because of that, we're rolling out the very product that you see here, or we'll learn more about in this, as well as many other dozen AI-based projects underway. But we're rolling out practical AI solutions to over 70,000 real estate professionals, and it is just taking off like wildfire, which is exciting. And so with that, I do want to thank my team who are, I think, watching this, because I have such an amazing group of engineers and designers and customer service professionals and project managers, as well as industry partners that we work with in a very strategic sense. They all care very much about our clients. They care about this industry. They care about providing a better experience. And so I just feel very fortunate to have that group, along with my business partners, Mike Soroker, my wife, Kathleen McRae, and our newest owner and COO, Nick Velati, who, for those of you who have worked with Nick, you know how incredible he is, what an amazing resource these folks are. Nothing that we're doing, what's involved in this giveaway here, it's really a white paper, wouldn't be possible without that group. I wouldn't be here today with you guys if it wasn't for that team. This is basically a white paper on what we're seeing as one of the, and this is a simple performance review on one of the most impactful AI products in our business right now, and one that is really, truly helping agents bring such a competitive edge to the marketplace. And so you'll learn a little bit more about it in there, how it's impacting companies, how it's impacting agents, and buyers and sellers at that level as well.
Sounds great. Well, thank you again to RISMedia and Reliance, and Sean, Michelle, and Shelly. Hope everybody enjoyed this session, and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, or hopefully in person at an event. So have a great rest of your week, and thanks for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.